And we're continuing our informal series. I always go in, I have this great topic that I want to cover, and I have this great plan, and I lay it out, and it turns out it's about 3 hours worth of material, so I end up breaking it up. So if you're new or you're watching these out of order, we're in the middle of a series right now on simplicity and back to the basics. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome. You know what time it is. I hope you know what time it is. It is time. We look at our watches, right? Our invisible watches. It is always time, no matter day or night. It's always time, no matter where you're located, for Life of a CISO. With yours truly, Dr. E is in the house, right? Attackers don't sleep. Attackers are automated and going 24/7, which means there's always a good time to learn about cybersecurity. So whether you're in the other spot of the world or you're up at 2 a.m. in the morning, always listen to Life of a CISO. And we're continuing our informal series. I always go in, I have this great topic that I want to cover, and I have this great plan, and I lay it out, and it turns out it's about 3 hours worth of material, so I end up breaking it up. So if you're new or you're watching these out of order, we're in the middle of a series right now on simplicity and back to the basics. And the whole idea is this. We get so caught up in life, in reacting, in putting out fires, in doing what other people need us to do, that we often lose track of reality. We lose track of what's important to us and what the high priority tasks are. And what we often need to do is do a reset. Just like we go in, and what happens periodically? It was true 20 years ago, and it's still true today. I get excited on if your iPhone or your iPad or your computer is not functioning well, or it's slow, or it's having some weird issues. What do we always do? Restart it, reboot it. What does that do? It brings you back to the core system. The longer you run these technologies, the more things are running in the background, memory, corruption, cache. I mean, there's so much garbage, right, that's not needed, that's just laying there, that the system is operating very inefficiently and it's not focused on what matters. So what we do is turn it off. It clears out all the volatile memory. And then when we come back, it's in a good, clean state and operates better, faster, and quicker. So sometimes with our lives and our careers, we need to do a reset. We need to do a reboot where we need to go in and clear out the things that are no longer serving us, clean out the things that are no longer of value. And of course, all these principles can be applied to your life, your family, but because this is Life of a CISO, I always tailor them back to being a world-class CISO. One of the problems with getting the title of a CISO is you often inherit a lot of things that distract you or take you from the task. Just go in and do a little exercise for me. Write down over the last week, over the last 2 weeks, over the last month, how you spent most of your time. And this is an exercise that I know some people don't like, and it's not because it takes a lot of time. It's because it's painful, because it reveals the truth. And this exercise is this. Just go in for 48 hours and just document how you use your time. Typically, depending on how you work, is usually do 30-minute intervals, or you can do 15-minute intervals, but just sort of track how you're using your time. Checking email, surfing social media. And here's the cool part. Your technology will do that for you. If you spend most of your time on a device like an iPhone or an iPad, they will actually go in and track for you how many hours you spent on that device and what you spent doing. You spent 2 hours on social, 3 hours on email, 2 hours surfing the web. And the reality is many people don't like doing this because it just shows how much waste of time there is. I always go in with folks when I do coaching, my super high-end coaching clients, I actually spend 2 days with you. We basically live together for 2 days. And the reason is this: other people can observe patterns and exposures that you can't see. And it's funny because I spend 2 days, usually after a day or two, I'm like, I can give you back 30% of your time. Because the problem I have with many coaching people, and I was the same way, is Eric, I hear what you're saying. I know that I need to go in and focus on strategy. I know I need to go in and read books on business. I know I need to do this, but I just don't have time. I don't have any time in my day. And that is actually not a correct statement. You don't have the proper alignment of time. I don't know a single person, including myself, that when I'm either observed or I'm my own observer, my own coach, and I actually write down how I'm spending my time over 2 days, that you don't instantly see at least 30% that you can cut. And then imagine if 30% of your time you could focus on being a CISO. You could focus on strategy. You could focus on being your career. It's true, my friend. It's much, much easier. You just have to be willing to recognize that you've picked up a lot of bad habits. You're doing a lot of things that are not serving you. And if you go back to the basics, simplify your life and go in and here's another task. If you don't like the writing down task, that's too much for you, or it's too much awareness for you to handle, then here's the other exercise. Every time you're going in to do a task, ask yourself a simple question. How does this make my life better? How does this help me reach my 10 and 15-year targets? How does this help me accomplish what I need to accomplish for this month, this quarter, or this year? And one of the things, back to the basics, is you have to have targets. You have to have 15-year targets that you then break down into 10-year, 5-year, 1-year, quarterly, weekly, monthly. And people always go, Eric, that sounds like a whole lot of work. You know what's a whole lot of work? Wasting your time. You know what's a whole lot of work? Waking up in 3 years going, what have I really accomplished? You know what's a waste of time? Waking up and looking back going, my life has been the same for the last 5 years, and that's why I'm upset and frustrated. So the reality is we make excuses in our mind for things that could be painful. Because here's the reality. Change is painful. Humans do not like change, even good change. Right? When I go in and I work with people and I am changing their life so they can be happier, more focused, a better CISO, a better parent, and actually accomplish more and double their salary in 2 years, they still fight me. Right? They still go in and no, because our bodies naturally want to protect itself. Remember, the number one goal of your body, any human on the planet, is survival. That is the most basic skill, and your body will do anything to survive. Now, here's its logic. If I'm currently surviving and I'm currently doing good, which most of you are, your logic of your mind is any change could impact that. If we're currently surviving and doing good and we're doing well, right? We have a nice car, a nice house, a family, we have a good job. And we're maybe even doing more than survival. We're even getting to the thriving stage. Your mind goes in and says, why risk it? If we change something, that could cause us not to survive. If we change something, we could lose everything. If we change something, we might get fired. So our body naturally puts up a defense mechanism where change is bad unless I'm not surviving. If you are not surviving and your life is at risk, you will quickly do something different. Right? If you've ever been in a situation, and hopefully not, that's life-threatening, where somebody either pulls a knife, pulls a gun, what does most people do? They immediately try to change. They run, they take action, they adverse, right? It's fight or flight mechanism. But you do something because your body immediately says, if I don't do anything, I am not going to survive. So I better make change very, very quickly. But the reality is, you need to convince your mind that there's a better life. There's a better version of you. And that's where those targets or goals come in. If as a CISO, you don't have any targets, you don't have anything you want to accomplish in 6 months or a year, then you're going to resist change. But if I can give you a compelling future, this is one of the things, if you coach with me, I do. We just had a call several days ago, and one of the things I do with every one of my coaching clients is I say, let's pick a 6-month target. We're about 6 months left in the year, and I want you to pick something that if you could accomplish it by December of this year, it would have such a positive impact on your life. And then I work with them, and I can see their reaction. If they're like, well, Eric, I'd like to do this or that. I'm like, really? You don't seem excited about it. But when we get to the one like, Eric, I want to, like, they really recognize it. And then we create such a strong why, such a compelling future of how this will positively impact their life, that all of a sudden their body accepts the change and willing to do it. It's not fighting it or adverse to it. So these are all sort of strategies on getting back to the basics. Now, last time we talked about communication, the criticality of communicating. All problems are caused by lack of communication and are solved by proper use of communication. I won't repeat that because we've covered that last time. So that's the first thing. You have to become a master communicator and be communicating with your peers on a regular basis for you to be successful as a chief information security officer. The next one that's super critical is once you have communication, what are you communicating? What are you portraying to them? And the next most critical part of being a world-class CISO, that when I say it, you go, oh, but most people forget. And that is a strategic playbook for cybersecurity. I'm giving you sort of a hint of what it's like to coach with me. But the key thing that a lot of people go, but Eric, you're telling us a lot of the stuff. So why should we coach with you? Well, why should we hire you as a coach when you're giving it away for free? Here's the reality. I'm giving you the recipes for free. But how you put it together and accountability is what I add to the equation. Have you ever done this where you go to somebody's house or even a restaurant and you have an amazing meal? I mean, it is just delicious, right? And you get the recipe and you go home and you try to make it and you follow the recipe and it's not as good. It isn't even as close, right? There's this restaurant, an Italian restaurant near me that makes this short rib vodka sauce rigatoni. It's as good as it sounds, right? It's sort of like a pink sauce rigatoni, and they do some both shredded short rib and some chunks of it. It is outstanding. When we have parties, we get them to bring it in. We cater them. We know the owner. He actually comes to our house a few times because we give them so much business. And one time, I was just asking him, going, listen, I want to surprise my family because they love this dish. I promise we'll still come to the restaurant. Can you give me the recipe? And he did. And two things I found. One is without coaching, I struggled because there were some things like, well, what do you mean simmer and saute? You simmer. I mean, it's like, well, what does that really mean? Is it 100 degrees? Is it 200? And then without accountability, right, I ended up missing or skipping steps. So the value of a coach is not giving you the recipe. I will give you some secret recipes, but it's going in and asking the right questions, showing you how to actually do the steps, and holding you accountable every step of the way. So the first question I ask you, do you have a strategic cybersecurity playbook that you and the executives have all signed off on? And most of the time, the answer is no. And here's the trick. Truth is your greatest weapon as a CISO. Truth is your greatest superpower as a human. The more truthful you are, the better you can be. And I've worked with some people, and I've come in to do assessments where the executive team actually brings me in because they like the CISO, but the CISO is not effective. They're not effective at connecting with the executives at a strategic level, and therefore the executives are concerned about security, but they can't get business answers to their concern. So I go in and work with the CISO, and even though I'm there as an ally, I don't want to take your job, right? I've been a full-time CISO. I know the amount of energy and effort it takes, and I'm at a point in my life where I don't want to help one company. I want to help 1,000. So I don't want to replace you. I want to make you so strong that I can then focus on helping other people. My job, whether you hire me or your company hires me, when I work with you as a CISO or any CISO, is to make you world-class. So I have one more person in our army and one less person I have to worry about. But they don't always get that, so they're sometimes defensive. And I go and I say, do you have a cybersecurity playbook? Do you have a playbook that goes in and has risk tolerance? It has the alignment of confidentiality, integrity, availability, and it has the top focus areas for your business. And they often go in and go, yeah, I have that. And I'm like, show it to me. Oh, well, it's here. So you don't have it. Because here's the reality. If you go in and you say, Eric, have you written a book? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, boom. Wait, I gotta get my boom, 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 right? Oh, that one, hold on. There you go. Boom. You can see the other one, right? I can go in and show it to you pretty quickly. But on the other hand, if I was thinking, and this is where we got to be careful, if I was thinking about writing a book, or I wrote a few draft chapters, or I've been conceptualizing it, and you say, Eric, have you written a book? And I say yes, and I haven't. I'm going to, oh, well, I'll provide it to you later. I'll say, right? It's either you have it or you don't. And it's not a negative, right? Not having something is a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness. So I'll often go in and ask folks, do you have a playbook? Well, yes, so you don't. And then we spend 2 hours arguing. Listen, the sooner we recognize you don't, we can fix it. But you need to have a playbook. Imagine a team, a sports team that doesn't have a playbook. They're not going to be very good, right? They're not going to be aligned. You need to have a way that you can communicate your vision with others in the company to make sure they're aligned. And the playbook has two purposes. One, it's something you need to get buy-in from your executives. For example, number one thing in your playbook, page one for your playbook must have two things. One, what is your vision for cybersecurity for the company? How do you envision cybersecurity for the company over the next 2 years? And I'll give you the answer. The role of cybersecurity at company X is to be a business enabler, is to be involved with all key projects and implement cybersecurity in a way that it increases revenue, profitability, and customer demand. Boom. Tell me that's not a powerful vision. Tell me that's not a vision that when you say that to anybody in the company, they're not going to want to get you involved. If I go in and that is my vision, do you think the CEO is ever going to have a critical meeting without me involved? No way. Do you think they're ever going to have a board meeting without you having a seat at the table? Of course not. But you need to communicate that with them. And then you need to back it up. You just can't say it. You have to show them. You have to show them how you are meeting with the CFO on a regular basis. You're understanding finances. You're meeting with the COO to understand what are the 3 most critical projects for this company to be successful and to be a dominating force in the market. And then you meet with every one of those VPs on a weekly or monthly basis to see how you can help them improve the projects. Noticing the shift, noticing the transition of how you are now focused on the business. That's the first thing. Second thing, you must have a risk posture for the organization. What is and what is not acceptable risk? Because here's the reality. We've been through it, you know it. But do your executives know it? Do your vice presidents know that 100% security doesn't exist in any realistic form? Because 100% security equals 0 functionality. The only way a system can be 100% secure is if there's 0 or minimal functionality. Just think of the most critical systems on the planet, critical infrastructure, nuclear reactors, water and gas. How do we protect those from cyber attacks on the internet? We air gap and we don't allow any external media into those systems. So if you look at typical nuclear reactors, they are in an isolated network, not connected to the internet or any other network. And there's an exception there. And they have physical security, and you're not allowed to bring in any USB drives, external media, or anything else. Those systems are really, really secure, but they have controlled and limited functionality, right? They have functionality that's needed, but it's limited. People can't access them. That's why one of the things we do with nuclear reactors is we put in data diodes. Because here's the reality. For you to run an energy company where you're actually providing energy for via nuclear reactors to a population, you need to bill out for that service. You need to let the business people know who is using what percent of that power. Well, if it's completely air gapped and you can't put any USB drives, you can't really run the business. Because how in the world is a business person going to get access to the billing information? Well, you don't really want a finance person to actually have physical access to the nuclear reactors. That's probably not a good thing. But how else can they get the data? So what we do is we implement a technology that is proven to be one way. A data diode only allows data to go one way, not the other. So now what we do is we take our critical digital assets and we set up a data diode where they can send data to the business network, but they can't send data back. So now you can send billing information, but because it's going one way, the probability and risk of exposure is minimized. Now the question is, can your business function that way? And is your business assets as critical as nuclear reactors? Probably not. So you're probably not going to go in and set up an isolated network with data diodes. You can present that. That's what I do with execs. When I work with execs, that are newer to cyber or they're not aware or they haven't been trained. They go, Eric, we're not willing to accept any risk. We are not willing. We need to be as secure as possible. I say, great. Here's the design. It's going to cost you $5 million. You're going to have all these systems isolated and air gapped. They're going to be able to send data out, but not data in. You're going to have physical access. So people are going to have to go through badge machines, barbed wire fences, physical security measures to access their network. We're going to have to segment out your office space. We're actually going to have to set up separate safes and vaults so only certain people can get to certain areas. And I can get you there. But there's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of perceived inconveniences. It's going to cost $5 million, and we're going to restructure and change your entire physical environment and network environment. That's going to take 3 years to do. And they're like, no, we don't want that. Okay. So then let's talk. What is an acceptable level of risk? Is getting compromised or having a breach once a year acceptable? And at first, like, no. Okay. Then let's go back to the $5 million. No. Okay. So if we go in and you want to spend $2 million on cyber with 5 people, then you have to recognize that you'll have a breach once a year, but we will detect it and contain it. So it'll cost you less than $200K. If that's not it, then go in. So what I always do with companies, and this is a great way, tell me what you're willing to spend, and I will tell you what your acceptable level of risk is. And a lot of times they're like, well, we don't know. So then I do the opposite. I give them 3 levels. I go, okay, if you're willing to spend $10 million and have 30 people, then here's the risk. If you go in and spend $5 million, here's the increased risk. And if you spend $1 million, here's the increased risk. You can't have both. Because what a lot of executives come back is go, we want to spend $1 million, but we want to have the lower risk. It don't work that way, right? You don't go in to a car dealership and say, I want a $500K car and I only want to spend $50K. They'd be like, no, you get a $50K car. No, you don't understand. I want to spend $50K, but I want the $500K car. They'll think you're nuts, right? They'll potentially, right, go in and want to admit you to a mental institution. It doesn't work that way. You either tell them the car and they tell you the price, or you tell them the price and they tell you which car you can afford. You don't get to dictate both. And that's where we need to educate our executives on the risk tolerance. Is you can pick one. You can tell me the acceptable risk, or you can tell me the price, and then I have to show you the others. And what I find works really well here is you give them options. But the reality, my friends, is simple. If you don't have an agreed to risk tolerance with your executives, you will not be able to be successful as a world-class CISO, because it's always going to be a struggle, and they're going to think that the risk tolerance is lower than it really is. So when a breach happens, they're going to potentially blame you. If you look at most companies, and this really sort of wraps up and shows you how a lack of a playbook, a lack of a vision, and a lack of a risk tolerance will always hurt you. What do most companies do when there's a breach? Most companies, 8 out of 10 companies, when there's a breach, what do? Fire the CISO. If that is not telling you that there's a misalignment, right? If that's not telling you that they thought they were getting more than what they were getting, I don't know what else does. So my friends, as you go through this week, go in and look at how you're spending your time. Where can you simplify? Where can you go back to the basics? Where can you do a reset and basically redesign your role as a CISO? And then it all starts with proper communication, having a playbook. And in that playbook, you want to make sure you have your vision and your risk tolerance. Let me know how this works out for you. Let me know if there's other topics I can cover. Post it below to this video. And of course, when you're ready to become a world-class CISO, when you're ready to take your life to the next level, please contact me, ecole@secure-anchor.com, ecole@secure-anchor.com, so I can set you up in my coaching program so we can get you where you need to be, your life vision and being a world-class CISO as quick and as fast as possible. Thank you for listening to this episode of Life of a CISO, and have an amazing week, my friends.